Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. I used to believe routine meant love. Saturday pancakes, matching mugs, bills paid on time, a shared grocery list with silly doodles beside the apples. We weren't a movie couple. We were steady, 2 lanes merging and staying that way. When Maya mentioned a girl's trip to Europe, it landed like harmless glitter, bright light dissolving harmlessly. She and her college friends had a chat thread named Sun Hats Sangria. They'd send photos of sandals and feathery pastries, and I'd tease them for being a travel committee disguised as a friendship. She laughed and kissed my cheek. "You'll be fine without me for a week," she said, breezy as spring. I helped roll her suitcase to the door. She packed smart. Sneakers for cobblestones, a scarf for museums, a paperback with a lemon yellow cover. She hugged me twice at the curb, then climbed into a car that smelled faintly of new leather. I waved and watched the taillights merge into morning traffic. Our street hummed with sprinklers and dogs tugging their owners toward the park. I felt proud of us, of being easy together. That evening I heated leftover pasta and scrolled through my phone. The Sun Hats Sangria thread lit up with pictures, a fountain, a cappuccino with perfect foam, 4 women's hands clinking tiny cups. I double-tapped, smiled, set the phone down, then picked it back up. Something pricked at me. The captions were oddly general. Finally here. Jet lag is real, and every photo framed elbows or manicured nails, but never a full face. It wasn't strange in itself. People post the edges of their lives all the time. But Maya's friend Lila always posted with reckless joy. Now she was posting like a travel brochure. I told myself to relax. Jet lag scrambles everything. I set my phone on the counter and took out the trash. When I returned, I noticed a luggage tag ribbon coiled near the door like a dropped thought. Maya's handwriting on the tag was neat, small. I tucked it into a drawer and went to bed. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown international number. "Made it, stacking pillows to imitate your shoulder." It made me smile even as my eyes burned. I typed back, "Sleep. Send me a cathedral tomorrow." She replied with a heart, then silence. 2 days passed. My messages got quick replies, emojis, short notes. The photos kept coming, always artful, always angled. On the 3rd night, work kept me late, and I took a rideshare home. The driver asked about vacation plans. I bragged on Maya's behalf. Museums, canals, bakeries where you never stop eating. When I stepped onto our porch, a cold breeze slipped under my collar. The house smelled clean, quiet. I boiled water for tea and opened the photo app again. Something finally shouted inside the picture. A reflection in a cafe window. A figure at Maya's table, blurred but unmistakably masculine. A broad shoulder and a watch I recognized from an office holiday party. Not our friend group. Not Sun Hats Sangria. I pinched to zoom. The reflection distorted, but the outline hardened. The shape of a jaw I'd seen across conference rooms. The posture of someone who believed doors open themselves. Owen Mercer, a consultant who floated between departments with slide decks like magic tricks. He once praised Maya's project at a company happy hour, and the compliment hung in the air too long. I had filed it under charming, not dangerous. Now, through a pane of cafe glass thousands of miles away, the category changed. This is where stories sometimes crack open with shouting. Mine didn't. I set the phone down, counted to 10, and then to 10 again. I could picture a dozen ways to make it worse. Frantic calls, regrettable messages, a public scene that would outlive the moment. I drank tea that tasted like nothing and started a list. I labeled it quietly. Facts. The list steadied me. It kept me on the ground while my mind tried to float and spin. The next morning, I did what startled me most. I went to work early, answered emails with clear sentences, and scheduled a meeting with HR. Not to tattle, to ask procedural questions about time off, benefits, address changes, what counted as abandonment of residence, what my options were if a spouse left the country and didn't return on time. The HR director, a practical woman with kind eyes, gave me pamphlets and links. She added softly, "I'm not asking, but if you need legal referrals, I can share a list." I took the list. That night, I went through our documents. The house was mine before marriage. Maya never wanted to be on the deed, said it felt romantic to move into your life. Utilities were in my name. The mortgage, too. I had never thought of those facts as anything but boring paperwork. Now they looked like bones holding up a body I wasn't sure I still wanted. I reached out to a lawyer from the HR list and met him in an office that smelled faintly of old books. He listened without interruptions, then asked clean questions. "Do you want to reconcile?" he asked. "I want the truth," I said. "After that, I want dignity." He nodded. We discussed timing, notice, what counted as desertion in our state, how temporary orders work, whether changing locks is legal if the titled owner fears unauthorized entry. He talked in careful language. I took careful notes. When I left, I didn't feel vengeful. I felt awake. Maya's messages became stranger. Photos came without context. Emojis did the heavy lifting of tone. When I asked about her friends, she sent a picture of a shop window with scarves. I heard no separate voices behind the glass. I waited and watched the departure date creep closer. The day before she was due home, a neighbor texted me, unprompted. "Saw a guy dropping a suitcase in your entryway last week when Maya left. Thought it was a driver. Just making sure you're okay." I stared at those words until they broke into pieces, guy, suitcase, entryway, and rearranged into a new shape. She hadn't even left separately. That evening, I boxed up the few things that were only hers. An art print she loved, a set of pastel mixing bowls, a cardigan still carrying her perfume. I labeled the boxes gently. This wasn't punishment, it was clarity. I moved them to the guest room and closed the door. Then I made a second list. Boundaries. It included practical steps. Forwarding her personal mail to a P.O. box, pausing the joint streaming account, changing the code on the garage keypad. It also included rules for my own behavior. No late-night angry calls, no public accusations, no story spun to win sympathy. I would give myself the dignity I kept saying I wanted. Sleep came in thin strips. Morning unrolled like paper. I called a reputable property management company, one I'd used when I rented a previous apartment. We discussed a short-term lease for the spare room and common areas, carefully within local laws. I explained I'd be staying with my brother for a few weeks to clear my head. We signed paperwork. A background check tenant moved in that evening with 2 suitcases and a wary smile. His name was Daniel. He was a grad student who said very little and kept to himself. He handed me the first month's rent and a security deposit, then carefully tucked his key into a fabric pouch. Everything was legal, documented, practical. Nothing was impulsive. I left a note on the kitchen counter for Maya, folded in an envelope with her name. "We need to talk when you land. Please call before coming by." I placed it beside her favorite mug, not as a trap, but as a path. No more surprises, no more shadows. Her flight landed the next afternoon. I knew because the airline app sent an automated ping I'd forgotten to disable. My phone stayed face down. I packed a bag and drove to my brother's place on the south side, humming with a nervous energy that felt like rain pressing on windows. Around 6, my neighbor, Mrs. Patel, the unofficial mayor of our block, called. Her voice trembled with a mix of concern and fascination. "She's back," she whispered. "Maya just arrived with a suitcase and tried the door." A young man answered. "There's confusion." I closed my eyes. "Has anyone called the police?" "I think she did," Mrs. Patel said. "Or the young man did. I can't tell. But a patrol car just turned onto the street." "Thank you," I said. "Please stay inside." I sat on my brother's couch, hands locked together, and pictured the scene with unwelcome clarity. Maya rolling up the driveway, key ready, Hart rehearsing a quick joke about jet lag, the click of a deadbolt from the other side, a stranger's voice through the wood, the split second where the world you believed in grows a seam and then tears open. I imagined her face draining of color, the way she bites her lower lip when something breaks and she can't fix it with charm. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Daniel. His voice was even. "Hi, Mark, she's here. The officers want to confirm I'm a tenant, and they'd like me to reach you if possible. Should I hand them the lease?" "Yes," I said. "It's in the binder on the entry table. Page 2 has my signature and the property manager's. I can join on speaker." A rustle, low voices, a polite cough. An officer spoke with practiced calm. I gave my name, confirmed ownership, explained that I had asked my spouse to call before stopping by, that we were in the middle of a separation. that a tenant had moved in legally with proper notice posted and filed through the management company. He asked for the manager's number. I provided it. The officer thanked me and put me on hold. From the background came a voice I knew better than my own. "What is this?" Maya demanded, not loud, not wild, just cracked. "What have you done?" I held the phone inches from my ear and stared at nothing. My brother passed me a glass of water I didn't drink. Footsteps echoed through the line, papers turned, calm questions continued. I didn't gloat. I didn't savor anything. I breathed slowly and remembered the list titled Boundaries. The officer returned. "Everything appears in order, sir. Would you prefer to meet in person before we leave?" "Not tonight," I said. "Tell her I'll call in the morning." I hung up and set the phone on the coffee table like an object that might go off. My brother watched me carefully. "You okay?" "No," I said truthfully. "But I'm not broken." He nodded, the way brothers do when words can't carry more. Outside, a siren drifted and faded. Inside, something else faded too, the version of our life that fit into matching mugs and doodled grocery lists. In its place came clean lines, hard truths, and the quiet knowledge that the next conversation would be the hardest one I had ever had. Maya called early the next morning, her voice tight, trembling between anger and disbelief. "Why is someone living in our house, Mark? What is going on?" I could hear the chaos behind her, the hum of police radios, the scrape of a suitcase dragged against the porch. I waited for her words to stop echoing before answering. "It's not our house, Maya, it's mine, and you were supposed to call before coming." "You rented it out?" she snapped. "You can't do that." "I can," I said calmly. "You moved out the day you chose to fly across the world with someone else and lied about it." The line went silent. Then a sharp breath. "Who told you that?" "Your photos did," I said. "And your reflection in a cafe window did the rest." She started to speak, but her voice cracked. I could almost see her face, the disbelief, the panic of losing control of a story she thought she could keep rewriting. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted. "You lied, Maya. You left. You thought I'd be waiting." She went quiet again. I heard muffled talking, maybe to the officers or to Daniel. Then she said, softer this time, "Mark, please. This isn't how it looks." "It never is," I said, and ended the call. For the next few days, the world stayed strangely calm. The WAM property manager confirmed everything was handled. The police report stated there had been a misunderstanding between legal occupants. Maya sent a dozen texts, none of which I answered. She tried calling my brother, then my mother. I told them to say nothing. Silence, I'd learned, was more powerful than fury. On the fifth day, she showed up at my office. My assistant's eyes widened when she saw her in the lobby. I stepped out and met her by the elevators. She looked different. Hair unbrushed, no makeup, the kind of exhaustion that comes from realizing a plan has collapsed. "Mark," she said, reaching for me. "Please, just talk to me." "We are talking," I said. "Not like this," she pleaded. "You think I wanted this? It was supposed to be a break, a trip. He said it would be fun, that it meant nothing serious." "And you believed him," I said quietly. "You left me for someone who treated you like a vacation." Her eyes filled, but I felt nothing. I wasn't cold. I was simply finished. "I don't have anywhere to go," she whispered. "He's gone. He blocked my number. I just need time, Mark. Please." "I gave you time," I said. "You used it to prove who you really are." She covered her mouth, trembling. "You can't just erase me." "I didn't," I said. "You erased yourself. I just stopped writing your part in the story." People in the lobby glanced over, curious but polite enough to look away. She lowered her voice. "So that's it? You're done?" "I was done the moment you lied," I said. "Everything after that was just paperwork." I handed her an envelope. Inside was a copy of the separation filing, the one she hadn't bothered to sign. "You'll want to look at the third page," I added. "The deed transfer clause. The house is staying with me. You'll receive a settlement, enough to start over." Her fingers trembled as she took it. "You already filed?" "Yes," I said, "a week ago." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. "Goodbye, Maya," I said, stepping back. She didn't follow. The elevator doors opened, swallowing her reflection as she turned away. That night, I sat in the quiet of my brother's guest room and felt the first real wave of peace I'd known in months. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't revenge. It was release. The slow, steady kind that lets your lungs expand again after holding your breath too long. A few weeks later, the papers were finalized. The lawyer called to confirm, his tone crisp but kind. "You handled this well," he said. "Most people don't." "I had practice," I said. "Years of pretending everything was fine." The next day, I drove past the old house one last time. Daniel waved from the porch and I waved back. The garden Maya had ignored for years was blooming again under his care. It felt right somehow, new life growing where lies had withered. As I turned the corner, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was just one line. "I hope someday you forgive me." I didn't reply. Some stories don't need an ending. They just need to stop being rewritten. And as the sun dipped behind the roofs, I realized something simple and freeing. Revenge hadn't destroyed her life. Truth had. And all I'd done was let it arrive on its own time. Months passed, the chaos faded into routine again, but the quiet felt different this time. Earned, not accidental. I had moved into a new apartment downtown, smaller but full of light, with shelves that smelled of pine and a balcony that caught every sunrise. I donated half the furniture, kept only what I truly used, and filled the rest of the space with things that didn't carry memories. Plants, books, the occasional record spinning soft jazz while I cooked for one. Maya's name still appeared sometimes. Not in conversation, not out loud, but in small reminders. An old photo suggestion from my phone. A misplaced file labeled vacation plans. A scent that floated from someone passing by in the street. I didn't delete those reminders anymore. I let them come and go like weather. They didn't hurt. They just reminded me I'd survived something that once felt impossible. The story didn't end with fireworks. It ended with rebuilding. One evening, after a long day at work, I stopped by a cafe near my new place. It was quiet, the kind of place where the barista knew your order after 2 visits. I found a seat near the window, opened my laptop, and noticed a woman at the next table sketching something. A skyline, half-finished, pencil marks soft and patient. She caught me looking and smiled. "Sorry," I said. "That's a beautiful drawing." "Thanks," she replied. "I draw buildings that look calm. Kind of ironic, right? Cities are chaos." "Maybe that's why it works," I said. "You make them look peaceful." She smiled again. "Maybe that's the goal." Her name was Claire. We talked a bit about work, travel, how both of us preferred quiet places to loud bars. It wasn't flirting, it was simply easy conversation. I hadn't realized how long it had been since I'd had one of those without bracing for disappointment. When I walked home later, I caught myself smiling. Not the kind born of victory, but of relief. The kind that says you can finally live without replaying what broke you. Meanwhile, I still heard things about Maya through mutual acquaintances. Her relationship with Owen had ended badly, as expected. She'd tried moving in with a friend, but that friendship cracked under the weight of awkward sympathy. She was working somewhere new, keeping to herself, avoiding social media. I didn't take joy in it. I just noted how choices echo, how consequences don't need help catching up. One rainy morning, a letter arrived. My name written in her handwriting. Familiar, careful, leaning slightly to the right. For a moment, I debated throwing it away unopened. But I read it. It wasn't angry. It wasn't manipulative, just reflective. She wrote about realizing what she'd done, about how chasing someone else's definition of success had hollowed her out. She said she missed who we were before she broke it, but she understood that person didn't exist anymore. She ended it with, "I hope you found peace. You deserved it." For the first time, I believed her sincerity, but I didn't reply. Some apologies don't need acknowledgement. They just need to land somewhere. A year after everything happened, I attended a conference for work. New city, new skyline, new faces. During a lunch break, I stepped outside, looking at a crowd crossing the street. People rushing, laughing, living. No one knew my story, and I liked that. I was no longer the man whose wife cheated. I was just a man with a coffee, planning the next thing he wanted to build. That evening, I called my brother. "Remember when I said I just wanted dignity?" I asked. He laughed. Yeah. Did you find it? I think I found something better, I said. Peace with the past. It's lighter. Good, he said. You deserve lightness. Before hanging up, he asked if I'd ever forgive her. I thought for a while before answering. I already did, I said. Forgiveness isn't about her. It's about me not living there anymore. Later that night, I opened the window and listened to the rain. The city lights shimmered across the wet pavement like gold threads. I realized I didn't need revenge stories anymore. I'd lived one, and the real ending wasn't about payback. It was about reclaiming myself from the wreckage. In the end, Maya's downfall wasn't my doing. It was the simple consequence of truth finally catching up to her lies. What destroyed her life wasn't my silence. It was her own choices echoing louder than her excuses. As for me, I didn't rebuild to prove her wrong. I rebuilt because I finally understood that peace isn't what you get after revenge. It's what you create after letting go. And as the rain softened to a drizzle, I whispered to no one in particular, I hope she finds her peace too. Then I closed the window, turned off the lights, and slept without ghosts for the first time in years. And that's how it all ended, not with shouting, not with revenge, but with quiet strength. Sometimes, walking away is the loudest answer you can give. Now, I want to know what you think. If you were in my place, would you have stayed silent like I did, or confronted her the moment you found out? What would your revenge have looked like? Or would you have just let karma do the work? Share your thoughts down below. I love reading your comments and seeing how each of you would handle a story like this. If you enjoyed this story and want more powerful tales of betrayal, redemption, and unexpected twists, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Your support helps me keep creating stories that hit straight from the heart. See you in the next one.